At this time, we'll call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Public Works. This is May 13th, 2024. Grace, roll, please.
Alderperson Carpenter.
Here.
Hanson.
Here.
Definite Ledvina.
Here.
Essercon.
Here.
And Mayor Boyd.
I am here. Thank you. Next item, public comment upon matters not on the agenda. Comments made during the public comment period shall pertain only to matters under the jurisdiction of the Board of Public Works. Anyone in person or virtually have any public comment upon matters not on the agenda? Now's your time to state your name. For the second time, any public comment upon matters not on the agenda, just state your name, I'll let you speak. And then for the third and final time, any public comment upon matters not on the agenda, now is your time. All right, we'll move on and go to the items. Item 1, approval of the April 8th, 2024 Board of Public Works meeting minutes.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Alderperson Carpenter, seconded by Alderperson Hanson. Any discussion or comments on the minutes? Seeing there is none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 2, public hearing to levy special assessments. Grace, could you please read the notice of the public hearing?
The notice of public hearing was published in the Green Bay Press Times on Friday, April 19th, 2024.
Thank you very much. Recommendation from the Board of Public Works. Eric?
The Board of Public Works adopted the preliminary resolution with a 5-year payback period and a scheduled public hearing at the Board of Public Works meeting on April 8th.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'll declare the public hearing open for this item on the agenda to levy special assessments. If anyone wants to speak on this item, just raise your hand or virtually just state your name and I'll let you speak. Second time, while the public hearing is open to levy special assessments, item 2 on the agenda. If you want to speak on this item, now is your time. For the third and final time, while the public hearing is open regarding levying special assessments, now is your time to speak. Is this person trying to speak here?
I think so.
I think they're muted.
If someone out there is trying to speak virtually, you are muted. You can unmute your microphone if you're trying to speak on this item on the agenda.
I'm sorry. Yeah, my name is Lori Iceland, and I live in Nicolay Terrace, and I want to speak upon the issue about the corner on 9th and Park.
Okay, that's a different item on the agenda, so thanks for letting me know. I'll let you know when that comes up, okay?
Okay, thank you.
You are welcome. Anyone else that wants to speak while the public hearing is open to levy special assessments, item 2 on the agenda, now's your time. All right, at this time, I'll declare the public hearing closed and will entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
I will second, moved by Alderperson Ledvina, seconded by me, to approve resolution Board of Public Works 2402. Final resolution authorizing levying of special assessments for storm, sewer, main, and/or laterals. You okay with that? Mm-hmm. Very good. We have a motion and a second. Any comments or discussion? All right, seeing there is none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. Item 3, consideration and possible action on election of Vice Chairperson. I would entertain nominations. Alderperson Ledvina.
I will nominate Alderperson Carpenter.
Very good, thank you. Do we have other nominations while the floor is open for nominations of Vice Chairperson? I will then close that with the nominations being for Alderperson Carpenter, but for the record, we will vote. So all those in favor of Alderperson Carpenter say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. You voted for yourself, so it's unanimous. Good luck to you when I'm gone. Maybe it'll be next month. You never know. Depends if we have hot button issues. Item 4, discuss rectangular rapid flashing beacon policy. We're going to go to Eric on this one.
Yes. Okay, so Alderperson Gantz has made a request for the installation of a rectangular rapid flashing beacon at the intersection of 9th and Park. The location currently does not meet our policy for the installation of, and I'm going to call them RRFBs for simplicity for the discussion. The purpose of the memo really is to discuss our current policy, and how it has been enacted, and then kind of take a look at 9th and Park in a little more detail because we did some reviews out there. So just for background, in March of 2012, the city adopted a policy for the installation of crosswalks. And at that time, really, it was only set up to where we're going to install crosswalks. And our policy was the street to be crossed had to be designated as an arterial collector. And that's common in our current policy because we wanted to focus crosswalks on busier streets. It was to be more than 300 feet from the next street crossing. And then there was some criteria, and there was an adequate demand to justify the crosswalk. Adequate demand at that time was defined as a crosswalk would serve 20 pedestrians per hour during the peak hour or 60 pedestrians total for the highest consecutive 4-hour period. Or the crosswalk is on a direct route to or from a pedestrian generator, such as a school, library, hospital, senior center, park, or employment center. And then there was some criteria about site distance. So the crosswalk at 9th, across 9th at Park, was installed under the policy of 3B, where it was identified it didn't meet the criteria for the number of pedestrians, but it met the criteria for being a high pedestrian generator. And it was several hundred feet away from the signalized cross section up at Main. So that's kind of how that fit into when the crosswalk got installed. In 2017, the city hired a consultant to evaluate the pedestrian crossings on North Broadway, but then also to update the street crosswalk policy. And that policy is dated June 29th of 2017, and we did include it in your packet, and then it was adopted on October 9th. And the policy really updated the crosswalk policy and identified when additional amenities would be installed, such as bump outs, refuge islands, RRFBs, and so forth. So now, looking at the current policy and then kind of some other standards that are out there. So the goal of the policy we established was to use crosswalks and then more amenities, additional amenities, in areas where we had a higher likelihood of pedestrian and vehicle interactions, i.e. lots of pedestrians crossing or lots of vehicular traffic. The goal, and then depending on the amount of traffic, the number of travel lanes, the amenity that would be considered, there'd be more amenities considered. So for instance, RFBs, we kind of focused on the high pedestrian, high traffic, multi-lane facilities such as Broadway and things like that. And really the goal was to emphasize these facilities at those high use locations so that we also don't diminish the effectiveness of those facilities by overusing them. So that was kind of what our balance was. And some of the criteria that is still out there today, for instance, the Federal Highway Administration publication, which is Exhibit 2 in your packet, states that RRFBs are applicable to many types of pedestrian location, but is particularly effective at multi-lane crossings with speeds less than 40 miles per hour. It also states under considerations, reserve the use of RRFBs for locations where significant pedestrian safety issues or as overuse of RRFB treatments may diminish their effectiveness. And that's kind of what we've been using and what the consultant came up with. Again, this was created by a consultant, the policy that we have right now. So in addition to that, we did take a look at some other entities, which we'll talk about here. But first, from the city policy. So the city of De Pere has a stepped approach, and it's the policy is included in your handouts as Exhibit 1, and Figure 1 on page 5 really gives you a breakdown of how we step through first a crosswalk, and then we consider bump outs and other amenities, the ladder crosswalks, and ultimately getting to the RRFB. Specifically talking about the RRFB, since that's what the discussion item is. The summary for RRFB installation Our current criteria is there are 20 or more pedestrians using the crosswalk per hour during the peak morning and evening traffic time periods. Lower volumes may be considered if a large percentage of pedestrians consist of young, elderly, or disabled pedestrians, or if we have 15 or more pedestrians per hour during multiple hours throughout the day. And that's very similar to what we had in 2012. 20 people per hour, considerations for other pedestrian users, and then also if you've got a multi-time period with many pedestrians, that could be considered. The vehicle threshold, though, is a collector arterial street with 12,000 average vehicles per day, which are our higher facilities. Also, we were looking at multi-lane facilities. So that was the base for our RFBs. Now, there is another alternative to that. If the RRFB is warranted as part of an engineering study, we would install them. And you will find as we discuss some of the RRFBs we've installed since this policy has been enacted, there have been those that have been justified through an engineering study, particularly at our schools. And some of that, again, is because during the peak vehicle hour in the morning and when kids are dropped off and picked up, and when pedestrians are using it, there's a very high conflict point, number of vehicles and number of pedestrians. So that's our policy. Now, to take a look at a couple other ones that are out there, the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, which is by the Federal Highway Administration, states, and I'll read it as in your memo, the installation of other traffic control devices and other measures designed to reduce traffic speeds, and RRFBs fit under that for their criteria. Shortened crossing distances, enhanced driver awareness of the crossing, and/or active warning of pedestrian presence should be considered, in addition to a new marked crosswalk and signs across an uncontrolled roadway where any of the following conditions are met. And here's their criteria for RRFBs. The roadway has 4 or more lanes of travel without a raised median or pedestrian refuge island, and on an ADT, average daily traffic of 12,000 vehicles per day or greater. That's kind of like our Broadway. Or the roadway has 4 lanes of travel with a raised median, kind of like a pedestrian refuge in the middle, and an ADT of 15,000 or greater. The posted speed is less than 40 miles per hour.
Greater.
Oh, sorry, greater, yes. Or a crash study reviews that multiple threat crashes are the predominant crash type, or if there are visibility concerns. So our policy follows really close to the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. So then we took a look and we found the Boulder, Colorado, which was referenced by several others. And they have come up with their guidelines. They're from 2011. They are still currently in place today. I took a look at what their threshold was for RRFBs. And again, they're similar from a pedestrian standpoint. 20 people per hour in any 1 hour, or 18 pedestrians per hour for 2 hours, or 15 pedestrians per hour in any 3 hours. Or they have some other criteria for other users, such as 10 school-aged children traveling to and from school in any hour. Note, young, elderly, and disabled pedestrians count 2 times the total volume thresholds. So that's somewhat similar to us, although they apply specific numbers for young, elderly, and disabled and how you count those. Now, from a vehicle threshold and lane configuration, for them, they have to have, before they will get to a rapid rectangular flashing beacon, they would be considered under 1,500 to 9,000 vehicles per day, which is quite a bit less than our 12,000. But they have a specific note that it has 5 lanes with a striped median. So that's, again, a very wide facility with lots of lanes. And then they also have the criteria for 15,000 vehicles per day with 4 lanes and no median. So it's slightly different from ours. That's more cars, slightly different from the MUTCD, but again, some similarities. Now, and I guess the other thing I should emphasize, from their research on page 8 of that report in your packet, it does say data collected at Boulder crosswalks where rectangular flash beacon signs or state yield law signs were installed shows that driver compliance typically increases with higher crossing volumes. It is theorized that the primary reason for the relationship is that drivers tend to ignore enhanced crossing treatments over time at locations where they infrequently see pedestrian crossings. It kind of goes back to the criteria. We're trying to emphasize the use of facilities and amenities where we have higher traffic volumes and higher pedestrian uses. Now, when we take a look at the Wisconsin Department of Transportation, from a pedestrian standpoint, they're very similar to us. A minimum volume of 20 or more pedestrians during a single hour or any 4 consecutive 15-minute periods. And then they, again, apply criteria for young people under 12, elderly greater than 85, and disabled pedestrians count 2 times the volume threshold. The big difference is here, they do have a lower threshold from a vehicular standpoint of only 1,500 per day, and they don't discuss lane configurations other than a maximum of 4 lanes crossed, so little discrepancy there. But, so, you know, there's a lot of differences. There aren't a lot of differences, I should say. There are a lot of similarities. From a pedestrian standpoint, they're all pretty similar. There's some differences in volumes, a little bit here and there, multi-lane facilities. Now, so our current city pedestrian crossings and our enhancements and how we've been using them. Wanted to talk a little bit about that. We've provided in your packet just 2 maps that show a breakout of kind of where we have our current pedestrian crossings and the amenities that have been used. I apologize, in your packet, the orange and the red look very similar, with the orange being bump outs and other amenities such as that, and the red being the rapid rectangular flashing beacons. But really, in addition to that, we also wanted to give you an idea of what we're dealing with average daily traffic. How many vehicles are using the road per day? And these are based on the Wisconsin Department of Transportation traffic counts, and those are the numbers associated with the roadways. So, a couple things. Enhanced crosswalks with ladders and additional signage have been installed on North Broadway Street as part of that 2017 study. It met the criteria. You'll see also we have ladders and other enhancements such as painted crosswalks in a lot of different areas, and some that were done before our 2017 policy, including a lot of the downtown areas, George Street, Broadway with some of the painted crosswalks. We have A Street with the ladder that was ladder-style crosswalks that were painted by WISDOT with the reconstruction in 2017. We have also made several geometric improvements in conjunction with several projects, including refuge islands and bump outs, based on our policy. We have a pedestrian refuge island that was installed at Webster, at the Webster crosswalk, at Charles Street. We just recently did the upgrades to Broadway and Beaumere to reconfigure the crossing to provide more of a refuge island. We've installed some pedestrian bump outs in conjunction for certain areas like Grant and Suburban and Apollo intersections, and then also at several of the RRFBs listed below in our table. Now, specifically to talk about the RRFBs that we've installed since our policy was put in place, and then the determination as to why they were installed. So at Broadway and James Street, we put pedestrian RRFBs in. That was based on a high traffic volume, a 4-lane facility, and based on pedestrian counts completed. We put RRFBs on Broadway at George Street. Again, that was based on traffic volume, 4-lane facility, and pedestrian volume. We do have a 9th Street pedestrian crossing with RFB mid-block crossing at the school, and that was part of an engineering study, a traffic study completed for the school district. That same study recommended a RRFB with a mid-block crossing at Grant Street at the high school, so one was put in there. We have one on Superior Street at the school, another mid-block crossing that was part of the traffic impact analysis done for the school. We have the Ryan Road at the school, mid-block crossing, and that was a hazard and busing study done for the school. And then we did have the Main Avenue mid-block crossing based on traffic volume, projected pedestrian volume, and it was part of a proposed construction of a pedestrian access way in there. So, and then finally, we do have a new RRFB going in on Lawrence Drive reconstruction project at the Preserve Trail which is a mid-block crossing, 35 miles per hour, and recommended as part of the engineering design. So that's kind of an overview of how we've been using our policy to install RRFBs and emphasize the placement based on pedestrians, volume of traffic, lanes, or an engineering study. Now, specifically the 9th and Park intersection in the review. So 9th Street is categorized as a collector, so that fits the criteria. However, the traffic volumes based on WISDOC counts vary from 7,600 ADT between Park and Main and 3,000 ADT, again, average daily traffic, number of vehicles using the roadway, between Moonglow Drive and Lois Street. Park Street is considered a local street, so the ADT is not tracked on that type of facility. 9th Street is 44 feet wide from face of curb to face of curb, and this is a very wide collector street, which I think has led to some issues out there. Parking is permitted on 9th Street. We've talked about that in the past. Staff performed many observations during the workday on the parking near the intersections. Vehicles are parked north of the intersection on almost all the work days. It's consistent. I think it must be people working at the post office. Now, there have been concerns regarding the parking in that location in the past, but ironically, that has helped us a little bit. We did put our traffic counters out there to take a look at speeds in the area. We put one south between Apollo and Park. We put one immediately north of the crosswalk at Park, and then we put another one at Park and Main all at the same time. And I included a map of the locations in your packet. So the speeds increase. So between Park and Main is the lowest speed. The average is 25.7. 85th percentile, meaning 85% of the vehicles are going that speed or lower, was 33.6. At the crosswalk, the mean speed started to increase at 29 miles per hour. The 85th percentile did not creep up too much. It's still 33.8. However, between Apollo and Park, our average speed was 31.4, and our 85th percentile was 40.7, which is pretty poor. So again, the 85th percentile speed increases quite a bit south of the crosswalk. Now, in conjunction with this review, we have notified the police department to do some speeding checks in that area to try to get speed reduced. Some of that I think is there's no parking down by Apollo. It's a very wide street, and we all know that street width. There's no lateral restrictions to the drivers. They feel like they can travel faster, and they will. Now, we went out there several different days and performed pedestrian counts between April 29th and May 1st. We had 2 different rain out time periods, but in the afternoon the weather was real nice. So we kind of extended it over a couple days. We did them in 3 2-hour increments, 7 to 9, 11 to 1, and 2:30 to 4:30. Again, trying to pick out when we think it's probably going to be busier. And those counts are provided in your packet. The highest total we saw, really this is not used a lot, the crosswalk. The highest total we saw was on Tuesday from a time period from 3:30 to 4:30, and we had 9 people crossing, 4 of which were disabled. But otherwise, we were kind of in that 3 to 6 range of people crossing. Now, so the pedestrian threshold is quite a bit below the 20 people per hour. Even if we apply the 2 times factor for the disabled, we still don't hit that 20 people per hour threshold. However, some general observations by staff during these counts. Pedestrians were observed crossing mid-block south of the intersection and north of the intersection from the USPS facility. Pedestrians crossed at the south side of the intersection instead of the north side where we do have the crosswalk. There were times that drivers ignored pedestrians that were ready to cross, particularly during noon. There were times pedestrians were waiting to cross and kind of stood back from the street or weren't paying attention to the gaps to pick up the gap, so then the cars wouldn't yield. Now, and when I say ready to cross, it's really important that when you're ready to cross a crosswalk, that's defined as you at the crosswalk, not where the 2 points of the sidewalk intersect. If I take a look at that intersection, if you're standing back of the crosswalk, that is not an indication you want to cross. You have to be right at the crosswalk as an indication. And so, you know, and then in addition to that, a pedestrian has the responsibility that they cannot dart in front of a car. They need to give a driver time to react. Specifically, our crossing at uncontrolled intersection or crosswalk in our state administrative code says the operator of a vehicle shall yield the right-of-way to a pedestrian, kind of highlighted in that blue, but it says that that is crossing the highway within a marked or unmarked cross, but also that the person, you know, has a responsibility to not dart in front of traffic. So that's kind of how our crosswalks are defined by our state administrative code. So based on all of that criteria, the number of lanes, the volume, the number of pedestrians, it just doesn't meet our criteria for RRFBs. So that's why we've not installed them to date. We've done various counts out there through the years and really have not gotten to that RRFB threshold, even from a pedestrian standpoint, let alone we're not meeting the criteria currently set for vehicles and average daily traffic. That being said, I indicated we have contacted the police to do enforcement near Apollo. We've also been in discussion, and we're going to be having a couple different Frogger activities at that crosswalk, particularly during midday in the next couple weeks. So I'm coordinating that with the police department right now. So some other closing comments. The cost of the RRFBs have increased to around $15,000 to $20,000 per crosswalk. The goal of our policy is to balance the use of the RRFBs at high pedestrian, high traffic, multi-lane facilities compared with over-installing RRFBs. As stated in the Federal Highway Administration, reserve the use of RRFBs for locations with significant pedestrian safety issues, as overuse of RRFB treatments may diminish their effectiveness. Now, I'm bringing this forward as a discussion item. You know, obviously there's quite a few people that want to talk about it. You know, if the board would like additional action, you know, we'd recommend we bring it back as a future action and potentially consider hiring a consultant to reevaluate our crosswalk policy. I mean, we have a policy in place. It's been working. We've received quite a few compliments on our use of RFBs from people that are doing our current parking study and things like that. But it's important if we have a policy to follow it, and if we don't like it, we should update it versus just randomly putting out RFBs. You know, the other thing is we could hire an engineering consultant to do a specific evaluation at this intersection and see what their feeling is for RFBs. So
I'm going to let Scott just jump in quick just to add on that. Very well done, by the way.
And just one thing to add, you know, Eric indicated in the locations where we have the RFBs, the traffic generators for pedestrians, i.e. what Eric brought up, the schools, they paid for the engineering study. They also paid for the installation of the actual RFBs to go into it. So, I mean, that is kind of one of the requirements we've had in the past.
Thank you. Thank you. Anything else you want to add there, Eric?
No.
I mean, that's a lot to digest. So maybe we'll just discuss amongst ourselves. There might be some people who want to talk as well, too. So any direction you would like to go, this is discussion only. So you want me to go with Alderperson Gantz?
I'd like to hear the public first before I make a comment.
You would like to hear the public first, get that, and then go from there. Again, so everyone understands this is discussion only. So now's your time to jump in and say stuff. So at this time, I'll declare the meeting open. I'm sorry. I'll make a motion to open the meeting.
Second.
Motion by me, second by Alderperson Hanson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. So what I'll do is I'll go in here first, and then I'll go out to the virtual land. So anyone in the council chambers want to speak while we're open right now? If so, just raise your hand or whatever.
Me?
Would you like to speak?
Yeah.
All right. You can just go to the desk. I guess formally, Alderperson Gantz, give your name and address.
Emily Gant, 448 North St. Bernard Drive, Deep here.
Thank you very much.
Do you need my social or anything?
No, you're good right there. Go for it.
I'm just speaking because Devin is not here today. Otherwise, he would also be speaking. But
Okay.
there are some people online who are going to speak as well. They have come up with a petition, which they asked me to present to you. It's, as alderperson, it's about 40 to 50 people. And they're asking for anything that you can do to help make this intersection more pedestrian safe. Some of the options were the flashing lights, the lane light, not allowing parking on 9th Street,
Take 'em.
but they're asking for something.
Okay.
There was something I came across. It's a grant given by the ADRC to assist with the cost of the light. If you want, they can pursue that and see if that will help with the cost. The other thing is there are elderly people there. Nicolay Terrace is elderly, it's independent living, 50 and older, or 55 or older, and disabled. So, senior center, I don't know if that fits the criteria. Across the street is Renaissance. Renaissance also is a senior center. And half of these signatures are from Renaissance, half are from Nicolay Terrace, and half are from people in the community who they say they cannot safely cross the street. They're afraid to cross it, hence why they may be standing off from the street. They say when they try to cross the street, there are cars parked on both sides north, which they're saying is probably the post office. So when you start to cross the street and you look to the right, all you see are the cars, so you can't safely start crossing, especially if you're in a walker or wheelchair, because you can't see past the cars until you get out past the car. Then you can finally see. And sometimes the cars on 9th can't see you either because of those parked cars. There is a parking lot across the street from the post office. Suggestions were made, maybe the city rents that and lets the post office employees park there. I don't know what the solution is. Also, there is, if you're at Nicolay Terrace and you're crossing, you cannot cross from Park at that first intersection because it goes into the driveway at Renaissance. So you have to cross north. In that regard, then you cross north on the north side, and that's when you run into the problem with the parked cars. So they tell me this has been going on for 10 or more years, and they have been asking for help. So that's the scenario. Our concern as older people, Devin and I, is that for the safety of these elderly disabled pedestrians and anybody else, even one accident could be not very good. So it doesn't have to be that light. It can be anything, but what's there is not working. Right now, what is there is a yellow pedestrian sign, and that's it. And the cars do speed, as you can tell from your survey, but if you stand there and watch, you can see them speeding. So that's all I have to say.
All right.
Thank you for the consideration.
Thank you.
And if you can change the policy or do something, that would be great.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anyone else in person want to speak while we're open here? I'm going to go virtually. If someone wants to speak out there virtually, now's your chance. So I can't see anyone else there right now, but someone just state your name. We'll just start there and go from there.
Yes, my name is Lori Eisen, and I live at Nicolay Terrace.
Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Yes, when I tried, like Pamela said, when you try and cross on the left side or on the right side of the street, the north side, you can't see past those cars. You have to go to the edge of the car to look And if there's a car coming, you have to jump back because otherwise you're going to get hit. For fear you're going to get hit, and it's like it's not safe.
Okay. Anything else you want to add?
That's basically what I wanted to say.
Okay.
But
That's great.
I don't think it's a safe crossing. I really don't, and they don't need to park on both sides of the road.
Oh.
That's what the problem is the car is parked on both sides of the road.
Okay. Thank you very much for your comments. Thank you. While we're
You're
open, anyone else want to speak? For the second time, while the meeting's open, now's your chance to speak. Just state your name. For the third and final time, while the meeting's open, just state your name. I'll make a motion to go back regular session.
Second.
Motion by me, second by Alderperson Ledman. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Comments, questions of everyone? Again, we're in discussion only here. So Alderperson Carpenter.
Would it be possible, like, when you come over the bridge head to the west side, you got them signs that flash that you had to push a button? Is that going way out of our policy here to have?
That sign has been replaced with the RRFBs now. So when they talk about installation of signs, they're really not talking about the ones that have, it's the bright ones. So that's kind of the same. Now, one thing, we could do in the past, and it's not so much us doing, we've talked about this location, and we would allow people to put on our signs the little brackets and put the red flags in there. That was something that was done for a while on Broadway. That would be in the past, and I think it should stay that way. It would be the responsibility of the people that are using that to generate the flags and then keep it up. But then they'd have the flags to maintain. Again, that's been used. But really, the challenge is, overuse of RRFBs can also minimize their effectiveness. And there are currently times you will see the RRFBs flashing in downtown and people will ignore it. So RRFBs are not a guarantee of safety, and so that is the challenge. So we're trying to balance, just because the RFB's there and you start crossing doesn't mean you've got it safe. There are a lot of accidents that happen at signalized intersections where the pedestrian has the crosswalk, the white light's on, someone makes a right turn, they're not paying attention, so pedestrians, so just a light in and of itself isn't a guarantee of safety. And, we want to do things like education, speed enforcement, and all those things. We could take a look and maybe we restrict one stall from a visual standpoint, but I definitely wouldn't restrict parking on 9th. Parking is slowing speed. So yeah, we may open up the visibility, but if the person is texting and driving and speeding because there's no parked cars there, we could still have an issue. There's no guarantee. Unfortunately, there's no guarantee of safety. We just have to look at the facts that we have, the criteria we've established, and then go forward with that. So there are some things. I mean, we've done things out there. We added the pedestrian crossing up until, I don't know if it was 2014, 15, somewhere in there. We didn't even have a crosswalk here. In the summer, we do put, and you can see it on the overhead, we put the little symbol, the little sign in the center of the road. And then, of course, that has to come out in the winter because of snow plowing. We could give the residents the option to put in the flags, and they could put those little flags so you can get a driver's attention. I mean, I personally, when I get to a crosswalk, if someone's going to yield, and I stick my hand right out and wave, but I'm different than other people. Not everybody's comfortable doing that. I get that. But the flags would give them the ability then to wave the flag. I was just in another city this weekend, and I observed they had a couple locations where they had flags out in a pedestrian crossing so that it was busier, and so people could use the flag if they wanted to cross to get the driver's attention.
Thank you. I'm just going to jump in really quickly here because I was going to bring up about potentially taking away a stall right near where the spot is. Parking will continue on 9th on both sides. That's not going to go away. But as a possible attempt to give, to alleviate a concern or maybe give a chance for someone to do that, that might not be bad. I'm not saying we have to do it, but I'm bringing that up. I don't think 2 stalls would do it, but you know what I'm talking about. It might give them a fair chance to get out there. I just crossed at St. Norbert, which is a pretty busy street right there. Again, you have to step out. I mean, you just have to step out to show that you want to try to cross the street. But in those particular areas, there isn't vision blocked because of cars that are possibly there. So let's just keep that on the table as a possibility. Because I'm all for education. I'm all for police going there, the Frogger stuff. Do anything we can to try to help that in those intersections where they are. Mid-block crossing is not suggested, but to go to where you have a good chance. I think, Alderperson Carpenter, were you done on yours?
No, I just got a couple comments here yet. I mean, it shows where the cars are parked, the speeds right there. That they're slower. It's when you get out of there. I mean, I drive it all the time. It's when you get out of there, you can see right when they've had the cables there where the speeds increase. And then I think Alderperson Gantz, when she's speaking about, well, that building's not there no more, that parking lot, that's a privately owned. And that's sometimes it's going to be developed. I don't know who owns that or whatever. I'm just going to say that. So that's not even an option for us to even think about. You know what I mean? Trying to get the post office people to park over there because that's private property.
That's not even there.
Yeah.
That's not us, yeah.
Yeah.
Someone else had a hand up. Alderperson Ledvina?
Is moving the crosswalk an option to the other side? I know the driveway is there, but.
That's what we ran into. It was really, if you look, the crosswalk at that location is kind of the older style where they put them in the center of the radius. A lot of the new ones, we go to the edge of the radius. And so with the configuration, everything, it puts it, there's an inlet right there. You can see the inlet. So we run into the inlet and then we get really, really close to the driveway. So that was the other issue. But otherwise, I mean, it is something that could be evaluated because you're right, that would pull you away. Because people are not parking south at the intersection. We were out there, I had people every time someone drove by, and Betty, if she were here, could attest because she'd text me. Oh, when she wasn't driving, when she was stopped, she would text me, so many cars here this time, so many cars, and then we had pictures. But I mean, we can definitely look at that.
Because that would then eliminate the need to restrict any parking on the other side.
True.
Of the intersection.
True.
Is there a car, does a car park right there south of the crosswalk? There's that little strip right there. When you leave the when you leave the driveway at Renaissance? No, go further. Right there.
No, there was nobody ever parked there.
I mean, can someone park there? I don't, I'm just saying.
I don't think they'd have the
Enough room? Okay.
enough room. But yeah, what you have is you'll have 3 to 4 cars parked here and about 3 on this side. This, of course, is the most popular side. They all want to park on the same side as the post office. And then
yep.
sometimes they'll park up here too. So you have about 3, sometimes 4 cars in
Sure.
here on a regular basis.
Yep. All right, thank you. Where else am I going? Alderperson Essercon.
Yeah, I walk around here all the time, and I won't cross at that spot because the cars are going too fast. They seem to speed up at the curve, like when it starts to curve, like.
Well, that's what they observed, so.
Yeah. So I'll go up to the stoplight on Main, but I could see how that is if you were older or disabled. That would be a difficult thing. It's also difficult to get in and out of the post office. That seems more difficult in the last couple of years. Like more people are parked in front of as you exit the post office. It's hard to see around like if someone parks real close to the exit. You can't see because of the cars coming around the curve, so they're kind of invisible until they're on top of you. So it strikes me. That's a bad turn of phrase for it, but that even just less cars parked in front of the post office, like you just limit the stalls, gives you a little more perspective to see.
Near the crosswalk, you're talking?
Yeah,
Near
on
the
either
crosswalk.
side, just like shrink it down by one.
Like we're talking about before,
Yes.
potentially as a solution.
So, but as a person on the ground, I think that would help just from being able to see vehicles. And they do. I mean, it goes real fast, but I wouldn't go there.
I must be at the post office on non-peak hours because I don't have a problem getting in and out.
Getting in and out.
I very well could be. I mean,
Getting
it's-
out is really difficult.
I see what everyone's seeing, by the way, but yeah.
We did restrict parking the other year at the post office. We moved it back just a little bit. But again, the more we open that up in there and restrict parking, the more concerns. Because we did a traffic study not too long ago, an accident study, and there were no major accidents at that. So I think it helps to actually slow traffic with everybody in there.
My other passing thought, and this is not to question the numbers or anything, but there aren't as many pedestrians crossing there because I wouldn't. I would just, so I wouldn't be counted as a pedestrian crossing it and trying to cross there. But I certainly would like to be able to cross there. But I go up to the stoplight instead. So I don't know if that skews the numbers one way or another. I don't see a large amount of pedestrians in that area anyway, but I don't know.
So you're saying they could be avoiding it just
Yeah.
because of the
Yes.
challenges that they perceive? Okay. Interesting. Scott, you want to take that, or you want to?
What I wanted to add is the issues the cars parking. Eric had brought it up in his presentation. One of the things that I heard several times, and even from some of the residents here that can't see around the parked cars, potentially installing bump outs at those. I mean, unfortunately, we just did the street not too long ago for paving, but if we ever do any construction, bump outs actually help you get further out to see around the cars. A great example of that is George Street. You have cars parking on both sides of the intersection, allows people to get out beyond the car to see traffic coming. So it is costly to put those in, but it's another alternative.
Chicago
that,
Street, I believe, has it
Yeah,
as well.
Chicago Street
by
by the school
Dickinson.
does, yeah.
Yeah, bumper cars are great. I'm assuming those are pricier than the RF or PBRs.
I mean, when you do it when you're constructing the street, it's not that bad, but when you do it
Yeah,
sustainable.
I mean, it would probably be very, very similar to an RRFB. Personally, I like the RRFBs at the multi-lane facilities because as you're trying to cross, you got multiple people to get the attention to. If you've just got a 2-lane facility, it's easier to get the attention of the drivers. So many times if you got the person in the right lane, like on Broadway stops, the person on the inside lane isn't paying attention. They're like, oh, maybe they're stopping to make a right or to park, but when you get to the 2-lane facilities, I'm a much bigger fan of pedestrian refuge islands, bump outs, because you're putting the safety in the hands more so of the pedestrian than depending on a flashing light. If you've got a narrower distance across, and that is one of the disadvantages to 9th there, it's 44 feet wide. It's increasing your speed, it's farther for pedestrians to cross. So, bump outs are, from a context, are better for a 2-lane facility with parking, in my opinion, than RRFBs.
Do we have bike lanes there to shrink up the width of the street? I mean, is that a possibility?
That'd be fine too, yeah.
We should have shrunk it when we did it a few years ago.
I guess.
It was unfortunately only a resurface job. If it would have been a reconstruct, we would have looked at it.
Yeah.
Would an island pedestrian island be a possibility there? Is that enough room? I'm assuming that, because if we did get one, I would assume that would slow traffic down as well.
Yeah, but I would say bump outs would probably be a better alternative because if you've got a lot of things in the middle of the road already, such as islands and things like that, then the pedestrian refuge island fits better. Otherwise, you've got this road where everybody's following right along the center line, and all of a sudden you got this blip and they kind of all got to go around. Now, it could be considered more of a chicane, but I think the bump outs also have a positive effect because it narrows that roadway and it constricts the driver, and any constriction makes a driver drive slower.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you. Other comments or questions? Alderperson Hanson?
I like
You have to
the
have
idea.
something.
I have something. Everyone else stole my thunder already.
Oh, think of something new then.
Okay. No, I'll just reiterate, I like the idea of considering restricting parking by one stall. I'm even looking at the Google map image, and there's a truck that's pretty close to the crosswalk here, so I can see how there could be some obstruction. I like the idea of the bump out, although I think in the past we've done it with larger construction projects. So, but
Are you okay with the police, right now in the meantime, everyone okay with the police going out there, the Frogger, education? I mean, at least get at that stuff right now. We won't need action for that. We can just go ahead and do that. Other information or questions or comments folks have? Again, this is discussion only, so we would have no action tonight, other than you're going ahead with the police education component of it. So what do you gather from this, Eric, as you hear us all speak and others?
I would say, I can bring to the next parking and traffic, taking a look at trying to eliminate a stall to increase and see what that would do for visibility at the
Very good.
intersection.
Great.
You take that to the next parking and traffic.
Scott?
Well, and the intent really, and I think Eric covered in his memo, not only is discussion, but if there's specific things that you want staff to further, it's kind of refer back to staff to investigate. The idea, I mean, like he's just brought up the parking, bringing that to traffic and parking. The other things, maybe budget items, like if you install bump outs or other stuff, that would have to be something you would look as part of potentially the budget process. Or if you wanted to fund and hire a traffic study, on it and stuff like that. I mean, we were just looking for kind of some of a direction from the board. I think Eric did an awesome job as far as laying out why it doesn't meet the warrants for the RFB. And if you guys want to go a different route, that's just kind of the direction we're trying to get.
I'm comfortable with the police doing that kind of enforcement. Get out there, do your stuff, bring it to parking and traffic about possibly taking out a stall. I'm good with that right now. Now, that could change after the next meeting. Alderperson Ledman.
Could I add to the parking and traffic, looking at maybe moving the crosswalk? Is that something you guys would look at?
Sure,
Great.
sure.
And again, to
Now,
clarify.
something
so
like
people-
moving, yeah, and if moving is an option, that would probably be a budget item then for next year.
If it's an option.
But to clarify, so people understand that one, that parking and traffic is going to look at is what, just say it one more time, what you're thinking of doing,
To move the crosswalk.
away from the drive
on the
Further
other side.
south.
Further south, thank you.
further south. Just so
The other
folks,
side of the-
just so folks understand what's a possibility for parking and traffic to look at. People understand what parking and traffic is. It's a committee comprised of law enforcement. Eric, are you on it as well too? City engineers, city attorney. So a number of folks
Police.
look at recommendations, police, which I think I mentioned, but that was my law enforcement. Take
yeah.
a look at these items all at one time, and they meet
Quarterly.
they meet quarterly. You laughing at me? Didn't I say law enforcement?
I thought you did, but I said I also missed it.
Or police, we can go with either one. Is everyone good then? I don't want to speak on behalf of anyone. You okay with at least these going forward here?
Yes.
And so people do understand, we appreciate you all bringing this to our attention. It's not the first time and it won't be the last time. Everybody up here, safety is paramount, and we'll do anything we can to hopefully get this right. That's what we're charged to do. So now it's in the hands of parking and traffic, and from there. Are we good, Scott? Yep. Alderperson Gantz, you brought this forward. Are you okay?
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for everyone out there in virtual land. We appreciate it. Thanks for your comments. Eric, again, thank you very much for the presentation.
That was wonderful.
That was slightly sarcastic.
No, it was. No, it was really good information.
Item 5.
It's good to revisit.
It's actually
that
good to
information.
revisit all that stuff with
It
the
is. I wasn't
RRF.
being sarcastic.
No, that was good. Then I
He's been
totally
months
apologize.
I'm sure you did.
It is actually really good information. Actually, it's not bad to have that.
It is easy to say, let's throw this in here, and then it's good to know why it doesn't.
Actually, for us, it's not bad to know about it once every couple of years or whatever, especially new ones, yeah. So I apologize for that, Alderperson Levin. That actually was a very good statement. But you know me by now anyways, so.
He was going to go home and cry now.
But he wasn't.
All right, let's move on to the next item. Item 5, consideration and possible action regarding Definitely DePere's request to waive public works fees. Who wants to take this?
I was going to make a motion.
Scott? Oh,
I'll second.
Motion.
There we go.
well, if you don't want to have Scott talk, obviously you've got the letter. So we have a motion by Alderperson Carpenter, seconded by Alderperson Ledvina.
Angela's out there.
Angela's out there. So we have someone from Definitely DePere, if anyone has any questions regarding Definitely DePere's request to waive the fees, which we have done, I believe, in the past, just to clarify for residents at home. The total amount of money right here, I believe, if someone can get this down for me, is
Roughly.
$4,600. Do I have that correct?
And half of that's
With a
23.
coupon?
Yep.
Yeah, 50% discount.
And,
I wouldn't-
Scott?
and if I could just add, talking to Definitely DePere, they may have a couple more events, i.e. the bike race. That was very costly for Definitely DePere. So they're looking at potentially having us do that. That cost is not figured into it, but it's substantial. So
Now, the good news with the bike race is there are changes this year where they're actually shrinking it up and the footprint's smaller, so the cost should be better. Should be less. Much better. Much better. Other questions or comments? Angela's out there again, eager, spent the entire evening here to say something, but I'm sure she'd be very happy if she doesn't have to comment. That said, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Angela, tell Tina this was a very contentious debate and you had to really sell your soul, and you got it. Okay, Angela?
She doesn't know how to unmute.
She fell asleep.
Will do. I can do that.
There she is. There she is. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Angela. Item 6, consideration and possible action on award of contract 2411, City Hall flooring replacement.
Make a motion to accept the bid from H.J. Martin.
I'll second that. Motion by Alderperson Hanson, seconded by me. Any discussion or comments? Alderperson Hanson.
We already did the first floor, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Now it's the second floor, and the mayor's office will have.
Oh.
Yeah, I have no idea if I'm.
Been here
I have no idea if I'm part of this. No, I
Fancy
haven't.
Oriental.
I haven't got a clue. I think it's all the second floor.
Second floor.
All second floor. Yeah.
It's all because of the dog?
Which one? Scott.
It's actually in the packet. Staff included the areas that are actually getting redone.
Yes.
In green.
Okay. Yep. No. Yep.
Oh,
I
yeah,
see
look at
that.
Mayor's office is omitted.
Is it in there?
No, I'm
No.
kidding.
Well, then I'd like to make an amendment. All right, that said, we have a motion and a second, correct? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries, thank you. Item 7, consideration and possible action on award of contract 2418 Mission Square Dumpster Enclosure Construction. This goes to,
I can take it.
okay, go ahead and then we'll have a motion, because we should at least talk about this a little bit.
So this Project 2418, even though it's called the Mission Square Dumpster Enclosure, also included the community center dumpster. They need to put a dumpster behind it.
Oh.
So that was the purpose of the project and the bid. Based on the dumpster enclosure, the low bid is Highway Landscape at $84,985. And I gave you the breakout for what part is Mission Square is $48,798, and then the community center dumpster enclosure is $36,187. We allocated $70,000 from the Public Works budget for the Mission Square dumpster, and $37,000 is allocated for the Parks and Rec dumpster. So it is within the funds we have allocated, so we're recommending award to Highway Landscapers. And then any specifics, if you want to talk about any of the other stuff beyond that, would be Scott.
Scott?
And the only thing to really add on it is I had an informational meeting with the Mission Square property owners, kind of discussed the location. That's what Eric and his team designed. So this will be part of the annual assessments that annually the Public Works Director puts together. Currently, we charge Nicolay, the alley behind Main, and Marquette Square. So this will be the fourth one that will get charged starting in 2025.
Very good, thank you. I also think it's a very good benefit for the downtown. Cleans it up nicely and looks very nice. There is no motion yet,
No.
correct? I'd make a motion to approve the recommendation. Motion by me, seconded by Alderperson Carpenter. Additional discussion or comments? Alderperson Hanson.
Yeah, thanks, Scott and Eric, for including a map of where the enclosure is going to be located. I assume we had conversations with the property owners, including at the old post office, about that location, but just wanted to
Yes.
confirm. They're okay with that?
Yes.
Okay.
They were actually upset about losing parking stalls, but then the owners of that own Broadway, there's several areas that are hatched out because they need areas for their carts. They basically told the city that they be willing to have those now striped as parking stalls, since there's no need to put carts there once the dumpster enclosure is getting in. So I think there's a net loss of maybe one stall in that whole parking lot.
It's pretty impressive. Yeah.
Is that motorcycle parking going to stay?
Motorcycles parking is going bye-bye.
Okay.
Wait, I'm sorry, what?
There's a motorcycle
Oh, the
stall
one
right
in the,
next to it.
ported thing?
Right in.
Oh,
No, just on this map. It's right in the corner.
Aw, that was funny, well done.
And then also one more. Is Walgreens part of this, or do they have their own?
They have their own.
Okay.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Alderperson Carpenter.
So are these fees right in line with the other place? I know it goes by numbers and everything, so the fees, they're being charged
Well, what happens?
comparable to, yeah, I mean, the other ones that we have out there?
The assessments, you mean?
Yes.
So what happens is I put everything in one pool.
Yeah.
So the costs for staff to maintain all of, all 4 facilities plus the cost of construction, all get lumped together. So everybody's sharing, they all get charged the same. And how that works out, a typical, if you're a non-eatery drinking establishment,
Right.
you pay a flat or cheaper rate. If you're a restaurant or bar, you pay a higher rate.
So that answered my question. They're all the same the fees are all over the same at all these dumps
Correct.
places that we have. Thank
They
you.
will be correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Alderperson Ledman,
All right, where are the Walgreens dumpsters?
they're,
It's fenced in, you can't see it.
Oh, I can't see it on the map though.
they're right next to the building before you go to the drive-through, correct?
Right in the corner, northeast
Yeah.
corner, right there.
Right there,
Oh, okay. Okay.
kind of before you drive in the drive-through area, yeah.
Just making sure they have them. That they're covered.
Other questions or comments? All right, seeing there are none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries, thank you. Item 8, discuss PSC final water rate case approval.
So this is just kind of an update. The board and council approved hiring a consultant to do a full rate case for the Public Service Commission for our water rates. Basically, they went through, worked with the PSC, did a tremendous job. Highly recommended this firm. We had our public hearing, the Public Service Commission approved an overall rate increase of 9.44% over the city's current rates. Basically, attached with the packet is the PSC's final decision on the water rates. The plan will go into effect beginning June 1st. So we bill kind of quarterly but monthly. So some bills will be prorated, some might be a full quarter at the new rate, some others, be prorated accordingly. So really the intent is just to inform the Board of Public Works, because this is the body that kind of oversees the water utility. The Public Service Commission's basically is the governing body for rates, so this is what they're telling the city, what they've established for the new rates starting effective June 1st.
Thank you. Questions or comments on the new rates? Alderperson Carpenter.
So in this new rates, is there a payback? I didn't see anything in there to our general fund.
That's still in discussion, talking to the finance director and the city administrator as far as how the deficit, the utility owns the general fund. So that'll be coming up most likely after the new audit is approved to determine where we're at, and then kind of come up with a plan that'll be presented at a later date.
Okay.
But that is the plan.
Yeah, because I didn't see nothing.
No,
Right, thank you very much.
And the Public Service Commission wouldn't allow us to entertain that because it's not technically obligation debt. It's just something that's tracked in the audit. But like I said, the city administrator and finance director, once we see the audit where we're at, we'll come back with a plan in the future.
Thank you.
Good question. Other comments or questions? Alderperson Hanson.
Yeah, just for the public too, Scott, can you kind of explain, one, what it means to be in deficit to the general fund? And then two, I know when we raised the rates last time in 2021, there was a lot of discussion about council back in 2011 or 2012 decided not to raise the rates for about a decade because there was also sewer rate increases going on at the same time. Can you give a little back story on that too?
Well, let's talk about the rates. The other one, as far as the deficit, I really don't have the technical expertise on that. I'll try in a bit. But the rates, you're correct. So it was about 10 years. The Green Bay Metropolitan Sewage District, also known as New Water, was basically passing on increasing rates for all their capital improvement projects. So at the time we were seeing 10 to 12% per year rate increase on the sewer side. And the discussion with the elected officials then was, we don't want to be doing, rate increases in the water and major increases in the sewer. Let's just kind of hold off on the water and get through what New Water was doing. So now on the sewer side, we've leveled out. So what happens over a 10-year period, we didn't do anything. Typically, a water utility can raise a simple, we call it rate, where you can add, increase it 3% and not really go to a full rate and increase. So when we hit 2019 about there, because I think it was about a year and a half it took to go through the full rate case, we had a substantial rate increase, close to 20%, because of the fact that, cost increase, everything increased, and we weren't doing anything with the rates. So there was a big increase back. We went in effective, I believe, January 1st, 2021. So part of the reason for a lot of the major increase in the operating side and the water side, we've been very aggressive when it comes to infrastructure, improving, and replacing our water mains. I know the Public Service Commission likes to see, 1.5 to 2% of your main. That's, in our case, probably 1.5 to 2 miles a year. So 8, 10 years ago, we were doing that, and all the amount of money we're barely getting 1%. There also is a compound into it, and we did eventually borrow for it, was we had a full major automated meter replacement in the entire city, which is, a $2.5–3 million project. So basically, fast forward, we had these major rates, to where we're at now. The sewer side, we should be fine, especially our audit is showing we're actually not going to deficit. We're actually increasing, based on where the rates are at a little bit to fund the projects that we're doing on the capital side. Now, my understanding on the deficit side, it's the general fund and other enterprises, because the water utility was running at a deficit to cover the cost of operating, over the last 8 to 10 years, compounded and added up, borrowing from these other funds to pay to keep the water utility afloat. So the deficit, it's not like a general obligation loan that's there, physically like going to the bank and take out a loan. It's just on paper within the city and the other enterprises. Our audit is showing annually that, the water utility continued to need funds to pay for all their, expenditures.
That helps a lot. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you. Alderperson Carpenter.
But, so as the PSC says that you should replace your utilities, De Pere isn't as bad off or near. We have, since the 80s, been putting in plastic water main. I don't know what the life expectancy is, but we got to be well over 50-some%, if not 70%.
I would say we're close to 60% PVC, but we still have a lot of cast iron. In fact, Eric and I, went through it. I mean, it's amazing because we try to balance, to be more efficient for street repairs and all the utilities, try to plan with the streets. And the issue we have so much, I'll call it metal pipe in the ground, the cast irons and the ductile iron. And with our corrosive soils, those are the first thing that go. Yep. And, based on the funding we have now, and where we're at, you might as well say we have maybe 35 to 40 miles. And what we're at right now, if we don't get any more increase in funding, I think this year's budget is $1.23 million in water main replacement. It's going to take close to 50 years to get that to PVC. We talked about the PSC wanting to see water utilities, the 1.5 to 2% raise, because when they come up with that, because usually a water main will have an 80 to 100 year life on it. You hope, I hate to say it, there's some new ductile iron I've seen go on the water authority side. It's popped after 15 years, but you just don't know. So we are looking in the near future, and they've told us about it. Some communities they're allowing a full rate case to basically just fund the capital, improvements for water main relays. So in a couple of years, we may be coming back to.
But we are in better shape than.
Absolutely.
My whole point is trying to get to.
We can take neighboring communities.
We can take
much better shape.
Except new communities,
Yes.
but neighboring ones
Right.
around us.
And the mayor's spot on. We are a lot more aggressive, a lot better shape than a lot of other utilities.
Yes, that had our older communities. Newer communities are
Correct.
all
Right.
plastic.
Right.
Correct.
Yes, but that's I just want the public to we're not desperate.
Dire straits.
Yeah, dire straits either.
Like some neighboring communities. All right. Anything else that we have? Did we vote on everything?
We don't vote on this one.
And we have a motion in a second. Oh, this is discussion. Got it. Thank you for that. Everyone all good then? Okay. Item 9, consideration and possible action on applying for Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources Urban Nonpoint Source and Stormwater Management Grant Program.
All right, so I'm bringing this back. We already discussed it at the March 11th, 2024 Board of Public Works, and it was approved to go ahead with the resolution and carry it forward and send to the DNR, which we have done. However, the DNR has a specific government responsibility resolution that we're committed to the project if we get the grant. that they want us to sign, and we did sign it the last time we got one of these, but I didn't know I needed to include it in this packet. So they were scoring, they contacted me and said, hey, we can still consider this part because this gives us more points. So I've included, so we're requesting, staff is requesting specifically approval of that second page, the sample governmental responsibility. So basically it's giving you, Mayor, the ability to sign the paperwork after it's approved by hopefully here in council for that grant. And again, this is the one off of Honeysuckle. So I just included the generic general information about the pond.
Honey Court.
I'm sorry. You're right.
Too many honeys.
Well, with the construction on Lawrence, I had residents on Honeysuckle today, so Honeysuckle's
Okay.
on my mind.
Yeah, we do have a honeysuckle.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you. I would, since I have to sign it, you guys can make a motion in a second.
To approve.
Second.
Motion by Alderperson Levin, a second by Alderperson Hanson. Additional discussion or comments? Seeing there is none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 10, discussion on 2025 GAP sidewalk orders.
Yes. So, and the reason this is discussion is because annually we bring forward the sidewalk gaps that need to be ordered in, and then we give the property owners this year and into next year to do that. However, we do not have any subdivisions that fit that criteria currently. So basically our criteria, which was approved on September 12th, 2026, is concrete sidewalks shall be constructed in the right-of-way as set forth herein where the following conditions are met. Along streets adjacent to a lot which a building is constructed, at least 80% of the lots are developed or 80% of the frontage is on lots that are developed per side of the street. On all streets in subdivisions after it has been 10 or more years since the acceptance of the first building permit for the construction phase. And so there's just a couple subdivisions in there that aren't quite meeting the criteria yet. So we just wanted to bring this forward to let the board know we do not have any at this time. We are acting on the requests that were approved by the board last year, the gaps. So we will not have any gaps we're proposing to bring forward to order in for next year. And then next year in May, we'll revisit it again.
Very good. Thank you. Questions or comments? I know we discussed this before. Alderperson Hanson.
Will Pine Trail Crossing have all the sidewalks in after this year then?
Yes, because I think we ordered them all in last year.
Yeah.
So some of the people put them in, some did not. And under Project 2405, our sidewalk program, we did include exhibits for the ones that weren't done yet. So yes.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you. Anything else
No.
from anybody? All right. Thank you very much. Anyone have a future agenda item? It appears not. I would then make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by me, seconded by Alderperson Hanson. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We're officially adjourned. Well done, Grace.